Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we turn confusing corporate reports into something you can actually understand. Today we're diving into a semi-annual report from AMG Funds I, and trust me, it's more interesting than it sounds. It's kind of like when you think you're ordering a plain burger and it turns out to have a secret sauce that changes everything. These filings often have details that tell a much bigger story. So if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below. This time we're focusing on how several of their funds are doing. The AMG Frontier Small Cap Growth Fund, a few AMG GWNK funds, and AMG River Road funds, all looking at their performance up to April 30, 2025. We'll be sifting through all the numbers and disclosures to see where the strengths and weaknesses lie and how they are making money. First up, let's talk about the AMG Frontier Small Cap Growth Fund. This report tells shareholders how the fund performed over the last 6 months. It's basically a report card, and we're here to see what grades it got. One of the first things shareholders want to know is, how much did this actually cost me? For the AMG Frontier Small Cap Growth Fund, the report highlights that the cost of a hypothetical $10,000 investment was $59. Broken down by cost paid being 130% of a $10,000 investment. This shows how much of your investment goes toward the fund's operations. Now, looking at the key stats of this fund from April, we see a fund with net assets of about $83 million. Looking at the top 10 holding and their graphical representations, we see this fund primarily invest in Lifetime Group holdings in Chem. They also have investments in United Therapeutics Corp and Caesars Entertainment, among others. Moving on, we've got the AMG GWNK Core Bond ESG Fund. This tells us that the funds have $113 million in fund net assets. Taking a peek at the top holdings, we see US Treasury bonds are at the top of its fund assets. Then US Treasury bonds paying 3.125% interest. Those two are very popular to hold. Audit also says these ratings are shown as a percentage of total long-term investments of the fund. Next is the AMG River Road Large Cap Value Select Fund. These funds' net assets were almost $51.4 million. And what are the big bets in that fund? Taking a quick scroll through here, it seems these funds' top holdings are CRH plc, Willis and Towers Watson, and finally LabCorp Holdings Inc. Then we end up with the AMG Veritas China Fund with net assets of almost $41 million. Who takes up the mantle in this fund? Looking at this, we see the China Fund very heavily invests in Tencent Holdings at over 18% of its fund assets. It also heavily invests in Alibaba Group Holdings, which makes sense given that it's a China fund. A little less diversification, which makes it more risk overall, but they are trying to win in that specific region of focus. Last up is AMG Veritas Global Focus Fund, which invests primarily in Microsoft shares, Unilever and Vinci SA. Jumping into the Schedule 8 or proxy disclosures. Well, turns out there aren't any. Nobody cares about this anyway. On to more important accounting information. Remember folks, this is not the annual report. There were some investment advisory fees that needed detailing, nothing out of whack. Here we see another list of information on securities being in financials. Again, nothing too wild to note. I'm scrolling because you should be scrolling to be reading these statements. It looks like this filing has a lot of disclosures and data. Remember, there are more kinds of notes. There's short-term investments. Look into it on your own time though. Okay, these are cash collateral accounts that are associated with the lending. This is where funds invest their cash account. This filing also included Fannie Mae. I want to show that to you as it's a little bit more unique. Looking at these results more broadly. These funds have had a somewhat mixed performance over the first half of 2025. The Veritas China Fund, as an example, seems very risky in its top-heavy decision to invest mostly in Tencent. Some might find that bold interesting, others too concentrated and not properly diversified. But this is what they chose. The numbers indicate that while some funds have delivered solid returns, demonstrating effective stock picking, others have struggled with low net income. Expense management seems reasonable across the board as the funds manage turnover. Seems very risky in its top-heavy decision to invest mostly in Tencent. Some might find that bold interesting, others too concentrated and not properly diversified. But this is what they chose. The numbers indicate attention to. Albin alright, that's our breakdown of AM Funds I's latest filing fund, as an example, seems very risky and it's top heavy. Something they should pay attention to. Akad alright, that's our breakdown of AM Funds I's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the